And I'm Kayla.
And this is our weather forecast for
this week. First, let's start with the local news.
Good morning, Plantation. Today, February 3rd, the weather looks partly cloudy. After using a thermometer, lows are in the high 60s and highs are in the low 80s. After using a hygrometer, we measured the humidity at a low 18%. When measured with a anemometer and measuring for wind vane, winds go east at 8 miles per hour. Tomorrow, February 4th, the weather looks similar. The lows are in the high 60s and highs are in the low 80s. Tomorrow will be partly cloudy with 11% humidity. The winds will be going east at 9 miles per hour. Wednesday, February 5th, will be partly cloudy with temperatures varying from high 60s to low 80s. Winds are going east-southeast at 11 miles per hour. Thursday, February 6th, looks sunnier. There is a mostly sunny forecast with temperatures varying in the low 60s and highs are in the low 80s. The humidity is at a super low 6%. And winds are going east-southeast at 11 miles per hour. Friday, February 7th, will be sunny with temperatures in the low 60s and in the high 80s. With the humidity at 11% and winds going east at 9 miles per hour, that's it for this week's local forecast. I hope everyone has a fantastic week with this great weather. Now I'm passing it on to Kayla for the national forecast.
Thanks, Sarah. For the national weather news, as you can see, we have a lot of rain in the USA today. It is raining in the states covered in green. The states with the uppercase L represents low pressure. This indicates that it will be stormy, windy, and cloudy weather. The following states with this weather are Washington, Oregon, California, Utah, Texas, Kansas, Montana, and between Indiana and Ohio. I advise you to stay indoors while this weather is going on. If you do go outside, wear a poncho and bring an umbrella. Do not stay outside for too long, as lightning can strike and wind can sweep debris. It can hit you, causing damage. Unlike our unlucky low-pressure states, Arizona, Colorado, and South Dakota all have an uppercase blue H, which indicates that those states are anticipated to have clear skies, light winds, and fair weather. If you are near those states, spend some time outside in this fabulous weather. The states with the red lines will be experiencing floods, so find some enjoyable indoor activities while inside. I can suggest drawing, Uno, arts and crafts, etc. These are a few suggestions you can do whatever floats your boat. There will be severe thunderstorms in New York and Pennsylvania. Make sure not to go outside during this time and ensure that your safety and that of others. If a natural disaster comes out of that thunderstorm, prepare and evacuate your plane, including where to meet, escape routes, etc. A stationary front will occur in Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. This can be identified by the red semicircles and blue triangles, indicating that these states will have cloudy, wet, and foggy and rainy weather for a few days. It is Pennsylvania's unlucky weather. Not only do they have a stationary front in their state, but they also have a cold front that can be identifiable by having blue triangles on this line. They will be experiencing thunderstorms, hail, snow, and strong winds, as a stationary and cold front cannot happen simultaneously in the same area. They can occur simultaneously in the same state, just in different areas of that state. And that's a wrap for the National Weather News. Have a wonderful day.
Breaking news.
There's a flood.
Oh no!
Floods form. Floods form when prolonged rain falls for several days, or severe rains falls over a short period of time. Another way is debris or ice causes a stream or river to overflow onto the surrounding area. Another way floods can form is the failure of a water control structure such as a dam. The most common cause for flooding is water from rain or melting snow that gathers quicker than the soil can absorb the water.
Conditions needed for floods to form. There are two air masses needed for floods to occur: moist maritime tropical and moist maritime polar. It is not essential whether the maritime conditions are tropical or polar. As long as the air is moist or humid, a flood can occur. As for the temperature, floods do not have a specific temperature to form. While floods do not have a specific temperature, many things can promote a flood. A few things are the amount of rainfall or snow amount in a specific area. As floods don't have a specific temperature that causes them, warmer air holds more moisture, which may lead to heavier precipitation, which increases flood risk. Floods require humidity in the lower atmosphere to form. This can lead to heavy rain, which causes, however, for a flood to form in the winter. Humidity percentages need to be about 20 to 25% higher than humidity percentages from the surface, 500 MB. As in the warmer seasons/summer, for floods to create, it only requires 12 to 15% of humidity.
What are the most common states for floods? Floods can occur anywhere in the United States. The states that are most commonly prone to flooding are Florida, Texas, Louisiana, California, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, and Missouri. Many of these states are prone to flooding because of their low-lying coastal areas. In other words, it is because of their nearness to the ocean. As other states are more prone to flooding because of their river systems, these states flood because of their high levels of snowfall and rain that flood their river systems. Other states have limestone bedrock, which make these states have difficulty draining the rain quickly.
When are floods most common in these states? The months these states get flooded are pretty different. In Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana, the flooding season is from June 1st to November 30th. While in Missouri, North Carolina, Mississippi, and New York, the flooding season is from March to November. California's flooding season is from November to April. In Pennsylvania, the flooding season is from March to May. Texas's flooding season is from October to May. And New Jersey's flood season is all year round.
What is the flood magnitude scale based on? The flood magnitude scale is a way to measure the severity of a flood. This scale ranges from 0 to 10, with 0 being a flood and 10 being the worst flood possible. This scale is based on a few factors, such as possible damage to communities and infrastructure. This is because a factor in the scale is based on potential property damage. The deepness of water is another thing that pitches into increases a severity of a flood. This is because the more profound the water is, the more severe the flood will be. The strength of the rain, which similarly correlates with the deepness of the water rain, can contribute to this scale by being one of the things. This scale overflow rainfall is considered overflow, which plays a giant role in this scale. Lastly, the area affected is another thing a flood is based on, because floods that encompass regions or more significant areas are more severe because of their ability to destroy more things. The flood magnitude scale is based on a few things, such as feeding the flood to expand to larger areas.
Levels of a flood. Level 0 on the scale. 0 is equivalent to no flooding. All land that is usually dry is dry. This level does not cause damage. Level 1 is practically not a flood. There are some small puddles near the sea level and small waves. The water level goes up to 0.5 feet, but this level does not cause damage. Level 2. is a small flood. A thin layer of water covers the land around bodies of water. The water gets up to 0.5 to 1.5 feet, which doesn't seem like much. This has reached the point that some roads may close, and if someone has a basement, this level may cause their basement to be wet, but nothing too significant. Level 3 is a middling flood. At this level, the water starts making an impact. Most roads are submerged in water, making transportation challenging. Water levels get up to 1.5 to 3 feet in this level. This of basements and the first floors of buildings can get wet. There is some property damage, people's daily routines get disrupted, and everyday life is undoubtedly affected. Level 4 is notable. This flood level starts to create a more significant impact on the area. The water levels can get up to 3 to 4.5 feet, which causes flooded waters to begin to rise. Higher tides in the ocean to get stronger, the flood to overpower low-lying areas, and more distinguishable damage. Many homes and businesses start to experience hardships. Evacuations begin, and transit and services are getting more disrupted sternly. This level starts to become no joke, as it takes a giant toll on many people's lives. Level 5 is a severe flood. These waters make numerous roads impassable to drive through these waters. This flood's waters can get up to 4.5 to 6 feet. These waters hit homes and businesses, evacuations become more ordinary, and property damage becomes more substantial. Vital services like electricity and water could be affected, and recovery aid will undoubtedly be needed. In conclusion, level 5 on the magnitude scale is starting to become more significant, becoming a bigger threat to nature, humans, and countless others. Level 6 is extensive flooding. The flood severity increases, and the water levels get bigger, at 6 to 8 feet. These waters flood larger areas, impacting properties and possibly submerging entire communities. Evacuations are undoubtedly necessary. The influence of this flood on life and protection is enormous. Recovering from this flood would be very tough and take a lot of effort. This flood would be something you do not want to reckon with. Level 7 is a dreadful flood to deal with. While the water pressures are going up 8 to 10 feet, businesses, properties, and all structures all get hit with large damage. Evacuations become very common during this flood, threatening damages to lives increases. Must-have services which are defunct. The area that got hit by this flood would face a challenging recovery to regain what that area had before the flood. This level was awful and damaging. Level 8 is exceedingly extreme, causing tragic flooding with water levels rising to 10 to 12 feet. This water encompasses large areas underwater, creating vast amounts of obliteration to infrastructure and properties. Evacuation alerts are sent out. Recovering from this flood will be harsh, requiring extensive amounts of aid and resources. Level 9 is a chronic flood, and it carries devastating damage. Waters are reaching record highs at 12 to 15 feet, with extraordinary damage. Whole regions can be submerged, requiring enormous evacuations and awful interference with everyday life. Returning to the state the region was in before this flood is unbelievably difficult. In summary, level 9 on the magnitude scale is brutal and devastating to everything in this flood's way. Level 10 on the magnitude scale is the worst level on the scale. It has record-breaking high water levels at over 15 feet of water. This is as bad as a flood can get. This flood will create the greatest destruction possible. This level is genuinely life-threatening. Entire regions are completely submerged underwater. This flood will destroy anything coming its way. To recover from this flood would be very difficult, even to try to recover from this flood. Therefore, this flood is something you would rather not be a part of.
What's a stream gauge? A stream gauge is a structure that measures and records water levels in a stream or river. A stream gauge works by being put next to a stream. Then the equipment inside the stream gauge measures the water level. And lastly, after the data is collected, the data gets transferred to computers through satellites. Stream gauges are frequently used to monitor flooding, study climate change, and manage water resources. A stream gauge's use is to help predict floods by measuring the course of water in a river or stream. Gauges manage water streams by measuring water levels and supply in streams, creeks, and reservoirs. Stream gauges also monitor the living conditions of fish and other wildlife. Another thing they are frequently used for is climate change studies. They do this by collecting information about water levels over time. Stream gauges are used by the United States Geological Survey, USGS. They control the system of stream gauges throughout the whole United States. State agencies are also use stream gauges to control their state's water resources. Considering everything, stream gauges play an important role in many different ways. Without stream gauges, many things would be much harder to measure and get the data we need.
How to prepare before a flood. To prepare for a flood, you should create an emergency kit. This emergency kit should include non-perishable food, a battery-powered radio, a flashlight, a phone portable charger, a first aid kit, extra batteries, important documents, and 1 gallon of water per person daily for a few days. Another thing to do to prepare for a flood is to make a family evacuation plan. This will determine on the severity of a flood. If the flood is expected to be a level 4 or higher, I advise you to evacuate. The higher the level, the quicker you should evacuate, as well as checking the weather forecast to initiate in your family evacuation plan, or agreeing on a meeting point outside of your home, creating evacuation routes, and who will be in charge of what exact tasks. These are just a few things you can add to your evacuation plan. Something else you can do is to protect your home. You can do this by clearing your gutters and drainage systems. Clean all the debris out of the gutters and downspouts to make sure there is a proper water flow. And install check valves. Do this to prevent water from getting into your home. These can be purchased at any hardware store. And apply sealant to your basement walls and floors to reduce water damage. Sealant can also be bought at any hardware store. Even if you are evacuating, do these steps to ensure your home can get the least amount of damage possible. A very important thing to do is to stay aware of what is going on. Sign up for your local emergency alert. You can do this by registering at your local emergency management agency. Another thing you should consider doing is elevating your valuables to a higher level. Or if you only live in a one-story house, buy waterproof containers and put your important belongings in there. These can also be bought on Amazon or any hardware store. Lastly, if you can afford it, try to get flood insurance. If your home is vulnerable to floods, this will always protect your property. If you do these steps, the safety and security of your home will be much better and will have a higher chance of less damage from the flood.
What do you do during a flood? Do these steps to ensure your safety. The number one thing you should do is move to higher ground, but bring your emergency kit and have your evacuation plan just in case. Also, put all your valuables in a safe, dry place. Another thing to do is evacuate. If told to evacuate, move to an evacuation center. If you do not have an exact one, move to higher ground. As stated previously, if you cannot evacuate, get to a higher up building that is less likely to flood and evacuate there. Another thing to do is avoid walking, driving, or swimming through a flood. You are very unlikely survive because most floodwaters contain debris and dangerous materials. Another thing to do is turn off things like electricity, water, gas, etc. If you are safe and secure, if you have enough time to ensure your neighbors are safe or people you know are more likely to get hit by the flood, you can also check the emergency alerts at your phone.
Expectations for aspects of a flood. Some expectations you should set for yourself for the aftermath of a flood depend on the severity of the flood. Still, a few general things that could happen from a flood are damaged homes, businesses, and other buildings. The water can destroy these things because hazardous materials get contaminated into the flood water. Another thing you should expect is infrastructure damage because floods may harm bridges, roads, etc. Eroded foundations of properties and other buildings occur because water can eat away at these foundations, leading to buildings and other structures collapsing, crackling, or sinking. Gas leaks in active power lines can also happen because floods leave large amounts of sediment, revealing gas leaks and potentially life-threatening power lines. Many more things that can happen after a storm. But these are just a few. Given these points, floods can create many awful things that can take months to years to fix. As we cannot change floods occurring, we can change our preparation for the better.